The food coma. A very small group of people known as scientists call it postprandial somnolence. Your whole life you've probably been told that you get a food coma because all the blood rushes to your stomach, leaving less blood and oxygen for the rest of your body, like your brain, making you tired. This is an urban myth. As this study highlights, it is a myth because a massive increase in blood flow to certain parts of your body, like your muscles during exercise, does not decrease blood flow to your brain, and in the case of exercise, gives you more energy. But that's not the only myth that needs to be dispelled. In a bit, we're going to look at how food comas are also not caused by the tryptophan in turkey. But first, let's look at what actually causes a food coma. There are three main reasons, and we're going to start with the least well-known: sludge blood. Also known as postprandial lipemia or after-meal fatty blood. If you think about the foods that put you deep into a food coma, they are likely heavy, fatty foods. From this study, quote, atherogenic diets rich in saturated fat and cholesterol influence the blood viscosity and red blood cell aggregability. A lower viscosity of the blood means that it is less watery and more sludge-like, and an increase in aggregability or aggregation is an increase in clumping. In fact, they don't just clump, they stack like quarters. Red blood cells usually have a negative charge to repel each other and flow smoothly, but after a fatty meal, quote, red blood cells absorb fat on their membrane and then readily agglutinate together, aka stick together. You may have heard of triglycerides, a type of fat in your blood that is a risk factor for heart disease. Here's what happens to your blood triglyceride levels after eating various levels of cholesterol. And the same thing happens with your actual cholesterol levels. The more cholesterol you eat, the higher they spike. But the effects of a rich meal do not end there. In this study, they fed people a meal of cream. When looking at blood flow through the heart, they start with normal blood flow, and after you can see a 20% decrease in blood flow. It is important to note that animal fat is not the only thing that can cause lipemia. Vegetable oils can also coagulate the blood. In addition to less blood flow, this fat in the blood lowers oxygen, with studies reporting up to a 10% decrease in blood oxygen markers after a fatty meal. In fact, because of lower oxygen levels and less oxygen delivery, fatty blood has been deemed, quote, an overlooked cause of tissue hypoxia or a lack of oxygen to tissues like your brain. All of these factors are why a decrease in blood flow or circulation is very intimately linked to fatigue. It's kind of like how you get tired after giving blood. In other words, after a high-fat meal, we see a sludging, clumping, slowing, and deoxygenation of the blood, all of which are going to make you feel like crap. Reason number 2 is blood sugar. Here's what happens to your blood sugar after you drink a cup of water with 3 tablespoons of pure white sugar. You get a spike in levels and then a corresponding tanking, which undoubtedly makes you feel like passing out. Not all carbs are created equal though. Add some berries to that sugar water, and you slightly blunt the blood sugar spike and eliminate the blood sugar drop entirely, dodging the food coma. Whole grains also regulate blood sugar. For instance, if you look at Gatorade, its glycemic index is 68 out of 100, but whole wheat kernels are only 30 out of 100, making it a myth that a food coma is caused by all carbs. This study found that carb loading before weight training increased the amount that they were able to lift and also increased the amount of time until they felt exhausted. To drive that point home, the Tarahumara Indians of Mexico are known to carb load 5,000 to 10,000 calories worth of carbs before their 100-mile runs. Moving on, blood sugar also affects chemicals in the brain, which brings me to number 3, brain chemistry. There are neurons in our hypothalamus that create orexin, a protein that regulates wakefulness. And it just so turns out their activity is dependent on our blood sugar levels. Dean Burdakov from the University of Manchester says, quote, we think orexin neurons make sure that we are awake and alert when hungry in order to ensure optimal food seeking. The neurons can be turned off by minute elevations in glucose associated with normal meals. Though by this logic, it is also possible that your horrible routine is making you deeply tired, and your hunger drive is the only thing keeping you awake. Finally, as your insulin levels increase, so too can your melatonin levels, which is literally the active ingredient in sleeping pills. Now, I'm sure you know that refined sugar spikes insulin, but you probably didn't know that protein is nearly as insulinogenic as sugar. So when you eat a high-protein meal, your body responds by spiking insulin. Here are insulin responses of several foods, showing a hamburger spikes it more than white pasta. So Christmas ham will boost insulin, subsequently possibly raising melatonin and making you sleepy. But wait, doesn't tryptophan also increase melatonin? Time to dispel the tired turkey myth. Not only are other meats and animal products as high or higher in tryptophan, but eating a high protein meal may actually lower tryptophan levels where it counts. When tryptophan is ingested as a part of a protein meal, blood tryptophan levels rise, but brain tryptophan levels decline. Since amino acids compete to get transported into the brain, tryptophan can get left behind when there is a flood of new amino acids and proteins, which is why this meal of turkey and eggs actually decreases brain tryptophan levels by up to 30%. So it is likely the large protein, cholesterol, and saturated fat load of turkey that makes you tired, not the tryptophan. In the end, whether the food coma is from sludge blood, low blood sugar, or an increase in melatonin after eating, you now know it is not from blood rushing to your stomach or from turkey's tryptophan. So how do you avoid a food coma? Well, since many of the drivers are things like refined sugars, vegetable oil, excess protein, and cholesterol and saturated fat from animal products, the answer is pretty clear. Whole foods that are plant-based. Just like the Tarahumara Indians ate. You've got disgusting whole grains and legumes, as well as fruits and vegetables. Ugh, gross. Ew, I could never ever eat that. Alright, feel free to like and subscribe. That's all. Thank you for watching.